channel, and welcome to another weekly update. I think we are on week 15 of 2021, I think. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. This last week was a very busy and surprisingly productive week whenever I sat down to think about what all I got done this week, and it was actually quite a bit. So, yeah, I guess since it's probably going to be a lot to talk about, let's just get started. So, as you know, if you watched last week's weekly update, you know that I took 2 additional days off Friday of last week and this past Monday to make a lovely 4-day weekend. And it was very relaxing and I got a lot done. However, I don't know if I should talk about this now or in my crafty update. We'll talk about that in my crafty update. But I did have a little bit of stress on Monday. But luckily, I was off on Monday, so it all worked out. But we'll talk about that in the crafty update. But I guess since it is done and it wasn't anything that I worked on this week, we'll talk about that on Tuesday. I delivered Hedwig to her new home. Actually, to the father of the little girl who hopefully will enjoy playing with her. And apparently she enjoys trying to feed Hedwig rocks, and and she likes to tuck her and her little baby doll into bed every night before she goes to bed. And it's really cute. He sent me a couple of pictures of her, and originally he said that I could share the pictures, but I don't know if he really understands like how out there it would be, so I decided I wasn't going to do that. But he sent me a little video of her opening Hedwig, and it was kind of funny because he said I made the mistake of letting her open it outside, and there was a lawnmower going, so the lawnmower totally distracted from the present, and she was just more interested in waving hi to the guy on the lawnmower. So that's okay though. I mean, she's 1.5. What are you gonna do? But apparently, she's been carrying it around with her and feeding her rocks and tucking her into bed. So she's very happy with it. And I said, "That's great. I am glad that Hedwig will not be white." Very much longer because that means that she has been well loved. So I'm happy that she is well loved in her new home, but I kind of miss her. So there might be another one on my needles at some point, but not yet because your girl needs a break from that. So, as far as weather goes, it has been rainy and cold and like kind of back to wintry type weather here in Pennsylvania, and that is sad. It's actually fairly sunny out today, but it is only, I think, 42 degrees, which is not pleasant. And so yeah, that's been a bit of a bummer, and it's really messing with my sinuses. And I just, one day I'm all like stuffed up and headache and everything, and then the next day I'm fine, or like the next hour I'm fine. So right now I kind of have, the sinus headache thing going on. So, but it's okay. It will pass. We always have these kind of things in March, April, and May around here that like you think you can bust out your shorts and your sleeveless tops, and then you're pulling out a sweater in the next day. So that has not been great. But that's, again, whatever. It's not snow. Although I have had a few mornings where my car has had frost on it, which is yucky. But because especially when I forget that I should probably thaw out my car before I go to work, and I go out with like 2 minutes to spare to get, to get to work on time, and I realize I have ice all over my car. Fun times. Um, but let's see, what else? What else of more interest have I done this week? Well, this weekend was actually very productive in the crafting and book reading because I was mostly by myself all weekend. um, my parents have been doing things, and I normally will see them at least once a day. I usually try to see them, and but they were busy this weekend, and I did go to see a friend yesterday that lives about a half an hour from me, and I haven't seen her in a while, not because of pandemic or anything like that, just because she had a new baby, and she has a little girl already, and she had a new baby in February, and just with getting used to that, and then me having being alone at work and not being able to take time off and everything, I was just exhausted every weekend, and had to get stuff done at home. I couldn't really do anything, or felt like I couldn't get away, to go anywhere. So yesterday was like the first time that I felt like I didn't have a ton of housework to do. I didn't have, a ton of other commitments that I had to take care of. So I went up to see her in the morning, and I stayed for lunch, and I got to hold a little baby while he slept on my chest. And it was so cute. And he's only, what, like 3 months old? It was so cute. He was a really good baby. He cried a little bit, but only because I was moving too much. So then I realized, I was like, I just have to sit here and let him sleep, and this is my duty for the next hour, is just to let him sleep on me. I was okay with that. So it was really fun to get to see her and her family. I really haven't seen her older daughter probably in a couple of years, because even when I see my friend, it's usually like she's wanting to get away for just a girls' night, so she'll, leave her daughter with her husband and we'll go out or whatever. So I really haven't seen her in like a couple of years probably. So she really doesn't know me because of that, so she was a little shy, but it was nice to get to see how she's grown, and that she's about, I think she's around 3 now, so she's talking up a storm, and so it was cute. But then when I got home, by the time I got home, I was exhausted and didn't really want to go anywhere or do anything, so I sat and crafted pretty much all day yesterday. So today is housework day. But I also today have um, a live show with Angie for our Bitter Single Ladies Read Romance book club that we run. I'm doing this. And I have a social with Kate Howe for her Patreon. So there's going to be a lot of online time again today. So, but yeah. So I've had a busy weekend, but not like, but I've had a lot of alone time too. I don't know. I don't know how that works out. But so anyway, let's move on, shall we? So when I calculated everything that I have finished from the last time I filmed, which was last Sunday, I have finished 6 books. That's that's kind of crazy for me, but I had a lot of like partially finished books that I just like couldn't get through, and I was like busy doing other things, and I just wasn't making the time to sit down and read them. So I was able to find some of them on an audiobook that I had previously not been able to find. So that helped, and then I just made more time to actually sit down and read this week than I had previously. But actually, I was inspired by Danny at Spinelli Speaks, who did a productivity sprint and a vlog at the, I think around when the mid-month book bash was happening with Doris, which I haven't officially participated in yet. But I was inspired by Danny's video to get a bunch of my like partially finished books done in, well, I gave myself like from Thursday to yesterday, but I ended up finishing a lot of them within a couple days by Friday. So that was really good. I was really impressed with myself that I was able to get all of these books done. So let's just talk about them. And I'm not sure that this is in the order in which I finished them. I just grabbed them. So the first thing that I grabbed, that is probably one of the last things I finished, was The Inferno by Dante. I decided to participate in a read along with Jennifer Brooks with her Discord group, which I'm not very good with Discord, honestly, but I just wanted to give myself an excuse to read The Divine Comedy again. So Jennifer is hosting a read along of the entire Divine Comedy throughout the next 3 months. So this month we were reading The Inferno, and then next month we will read Purgatorio, and then in June we will read Paradiso. And I know I definitely have read The Inferno before because this is a college copy that I still have. But I vaguely remember Paradiso, but I really don't remember Purgatorio at all. And I don't have copies of them. So I'm not really sure if I just got them out of the library or just read sections of them. I don't know. But anyway, these are basically written in poetry form. This is actually pretty short. And while I have a physical copy of the book, I ended up finding an audiobook copy. And I'm not sure, it never said in my audiobook copy who the translator was. So I don't know who the translator was for that one. But this copy that I have is John Chiardi? I don't know. And I remember really liking this translation when I read it in college. So, and it was pretty close. I followed along in a lot of it with the audiobook, and it's fairly close. It was easy to follow along. And I really love this. I don't know why, because it's very dark. But maybe that's why, because it just, when I first read it, I just remember it being such an interesting concept of there being many levels in hell, and basically many different, I mean, many different kinds of sin and different levels of your torture, basically, in hell. Um, and yeah, it was just such an interesting concept of somebody just kind of touring hell, basically. And one of the opening, it's not the opening line, but one of the famous quotes from this always kind of gives me chills. And it says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." And yeah, the narrator for the audiobook version that I listened to was really good, and it was really creepy. And this is one of those books that, even though I realize that this is not terribly, biblically sound, it really is one of those books that I'm like, oh, I gotta straighten up. I don't want to go to hell. So yeah, I really enjoyed rereading this, and I'm excited to get on to the next two books. And the next book, which is also a short little thing, was Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. Again, I have read this before in college, and I had remembered reading this and not getting it at all. Like, and I feel like part of this was just because I was in college. I was trying to read a lot of things. This is a short book, but the concepts in this book and the themes are so dense that I just, like, my brain was in overload mode in college, and I couldn't connect with it. So when Victoria from A Musical Bookworm said that she was wanting to run a readathon of, or read along of the Space Trilogy, which this is the first book in that trilogy, I was like, yeah, you know what? I need to reread this because I feel like I probably would like it now, reading it for fun, basically, and with other people that are not like professors and trying to grade me on it, on what my knowledge base is. Um, and I was right. I really enjoyed this way more the second time around. Again, I found an audiobook version of it and listened to it that way, and I think that helped because this takes place on the planet of Malacandra, and there are just a bunch of different alien creatures that have a weird language, and when you're reading this in print, sometimes it is hard to get those names and things in your head. Like there's a species called the Piffletriggy, and or Fiffletriggy. I'm not even sure, but I think the narrator called it Fiffletriggy. So that was just better to be able to hear it rather than read it, I think, and get it more in my head. Um, and there was a live show for it just yesterday, which I missed the live show because I was snuggling a baby. But I watched the replay when I got home, and yeah, I really enjoyed hearing the four hosts of the read along talk about it and their ideas of what, you know, the themes, because this is a very thematic book. It's character based, but the characters are not necessarily endearing. It's they're more means to an end, I guess, is how I would say it. The aliens are endearing, I believe, but the humans are not. Even the main character, Ransom, he's not anybody that I feel like I would remember for, you know, years to come and think, oh, what a good guy he was, or what, you know, oh, his character development, or anything like that. He was just kind of there to move the story along. But the story was very interesting. There are a lot of concepts of how basically how our world has done screwed everything up. And and we there it kind of gives the concept that there are other, you know, if there were another intelligent planet out there, maybe how they would run things a little bit differently and a little bit more harmoniously than we on Earth tend to do things. And you know, they are not necessarily judgmental of everybody who doesn't believe like they believe, and that's a novel concept, isn't it? And so yeah, it was really an interesting story, and so I'm hoping that Paralandra and our that hideous strength is the last one. I'm hoping that I also enjoy those on my second reading of them, because I definitely enjoyed this one more than I did before. Now, I'm not going to talk much about this one. This is the Half Stitched Amish Quilting Club, and I read this one and I finished it yesterday for the Bitter Single Ladies Read Romance book club that I run with my friend Angie. And I'm not sure if I will get this video up before we actually have our live stream, so I'm not going to talk much about it, but I picked this one because the readathon Amish in April that is run by my friend Sarah at the Bookish Knitter. She's changed her channel names a couple of times, and I totally blanked on what her channel name was, but the Bookish Knitter. And Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books are running this throughout the month of April. it's technically it was technically about 2 weeks long, and it ends today. But Sarah basically just reads Amish books all April long. So I wanted to tie in our book pick with her readathon, and I had been recommended this. This is the beginning of a series, and I had been recommended this series a couple of times by um, an unreal life friend who reads a lot of Christian fiction, and Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books. And I don't think Sarah's ever read this series because she likes kind of the grittier, uh, sounds funny, but gritty Amish books. But there are some. But this was definitely not gritty. It was, and it wasn't as it wasn't a romance really. So it probably doesn't fit the theme of our book club as much as I was hoping. But there's a little romance in it, so we'll count it. But I'm not going to talk much about whether I liked this or didn't like this. You'll have to catch the live stream if you want to find out if I thought this was worth a read or not. Oh, and then one book that I finished via ebook finally was A Girl from Yam Hill by Beverly Cleary. And that was one that I just had languishing from the beginning of April because Angie, that also does the Bitter Single Ladies with me, decided to host a read along of Beverly Cleary's memoir, and kind of do a readathon for 2 weeks leading up to Beverly Cleary's birthday on April 12th, which is also Angie's birthday. So I started that one, and I was hoping to get to a lot of the fiction that Beverly Cleary wrote in her lifetime, but didn't get any farther than the memoir. But I'm really glad that I finally got it finished. It was really a sweet story. Um, well, not a story, it's basically her life, the story of her life. Um, and she really kind of had a rough bringing up, I would say. She always seemed to have a good attitude, but her home life was not always the greatest. She lived through the Depression. She most of her high school years happened during the Depression. She lived through, I believe, the First World War when she was very young. She was 104 when she died, so she's been through a lot of things. This memoir stopped, I believe, kind of when she was graduate, or when she went off to college. It That was kind of where this memoir stopped. I believe there's a second memoir from her that I would also like to pick up, so maybe that one goes more through her writing career. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was just really fascinating to learn about a woman who has lived such a long life, and just died in this past March. It was fascinating to see how long of a life she's lived. So I'm really glad I finished it. It was just hard for me to finish it because I was reading it on ebook off of my phone. So that is always a struggle for me. Also, this week I read through the entirety of Out to Canaan by Jan Karen. This is the fourth book, I believe we are on now, in our year at Mitford Read Along that I am co hosting with Kate Howe, Angie from Literary Labors, and Chelsea from The Voyage of a Time Wanderer. I think I actually got her channel name right this time. So I'm not going to talk a lot about this one because we are going to have a live show the last day of the month. But I really, again, enjoyed this one. And it's just an extension of the characters we all know and love. And they get they get up to some things in this one. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I listened to this one on audiobook as well. I really have been enjoying the narrator of this series that I found. And yeah, that's just my preferred way of reading it. But I also like to have the physical copy so that I can kind of keep up with it. And the last thing that I finished this week is Henry IV Part 1, and that's by William Shakespeare. I buddy read this with my friend Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading. I was actually kind of a slow buddy reader, which normally I'm pretty quick with at least reading through Shakespeare, but I am not as interested, I guess, in the history plays. And this one, not a whole heck of a lot happened, honestly. So I was struggling with it. I was struggling with the, because obviously the language in Shakespeare is a little bit difficult to wrap your head around. And even if you're somebody that's sort of familiar with it. But I had always found that I didn't mind that because I understood what was happening just based on the action and other things, but I didn't really have that experience with this one. It was a lot of just talking about war tactics and like stealing from people and just a lot of yelling. And I was just like, I'm not really interested in this, so it just kind of took me a while to get into. I did remember, though, that I saw this in New York with Ethan Hawke as Hotspur and Kevin Kline as Falstaff at the Lincoln Center in New York City. And when I went there for a theater trip in college. And I will be honest that at the time, I did not really know who Kevin Kline was. I know that's odd, but I didn't really, I don't think it connected. I was more familiar with who Ethan Hawke was. And so I don't really remember his Kevin Kline's portrayal of Falstaff. It was a very long time ago, so like you'll have to forgive me with that. But I do remember Ethan Hawke as Hotspur, and I did not like his portrayal of Hotspur. I don't know if this is the way he was supposed to be, but literally all Ethan Hawke did for the entire play was yell. Like he had no off button, just yelling the entire time. And I think that's why everything else is just out of my mind with that, because the whole time I was like, oh my gosh, simmer down. You don't have to, I know your name is Hotspur and I know you're supposed to be a volatile character, but geez, like you have to have like a little bit of range. So I just remember not liking his portrayal, and that just kind of, shoved out everything else that could have been good about that play. Which, of course, I'm sure Kevin Kline played an excellent Falstaff, and I do kind of looking back on it, vaguely remember him. And I do remember liking his portrayal of Falstaff because he was like the comic relief of it, right? So that's who Falstaff is, sort of. Um, but yeah, I really wish that I could find that performance online, because I would like to focus more on Kevin Kline and see his portrayal now that I'm more familiar with who he is and how much I do like him. Oh gosh. So yeah, Ethan Hawke, I don't know, buddy. But yeah, so that was a lot of reading for this week. So let's just move right along into my crafting dramas this week. Okay, so as I told you, Hedwig is done and out of my house. So that has left me with only one knitting project on the needles at the moment. Actually, two, but I put away my Hufflepuff shawl for a while because I just decided I would rather monogamously knit on the sweater that I have been knitting on since the end of March. And let's just talk about that drama, shall we? Here we have the current situation that is um, my white horse sweater, and that's like the way it should go. And you might think like, oh, it looks about the same. Uh, and it almost is, but actually it is smaller than it was the last time we talked because I had to rip the entire thing out and restart it on Monday. I somehow, I don't know, wasn't paying attention, but I somehow flipped this inside out and knit about 3 rounds and thought, this is weird. If this feels odd, I don't remember doing it this way. And then I realized what I did and that it was inside out and thought, uh-oh, what do I do now? I'm gonna have to tink back, which is just like, going backwards basically around every stitch and taking it back. But because this is such an intricate pattern, that was not working well. And I was just really confused and I knew I was screwing things up. And I had said before that I had made like little errors throughout anyway because they were like stitches I wasn't familiar with and I was just kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. And so I thought long and hard about it and I was like, you know what? Just don't even pull out the new sweater yet. Just or don't even pull out the old sweater yet. Just get a new ball of yarn and start over again. And it'll be like you're just knitting something new. It's not going to be like you're sad and you're pulling out the old sweater. Just start it again. So that's what I did. And because I was off on Monday, I was able to just kind of obsessively restart it. And I've been knitting on it every day, at least a few rounds. And it's almost back to where I was before. And it's going a lot better this time. I think maybe I've only messed up 1 or 2 stitches throughout, like losing my stitch count between my markers and everything. So this time is going a lot better. So as long as I remember before every session to check to make sure it's right side out, I should be fine. Fingers crossed. So yeah, I'm really excited about how this is working up the second time around. I can already tell it looks cleaner. And yeah, I'm hoping that I don't screw it up again because if I get any further and screw it up, that'll be sad. But yeah, we're just trucking along. I've realized tried to knit this on a virtual knit night with some friends whilst talking. It is not appropriate for that kind of thing. So probably when we have another knit night, I will probably pull out my shawl again, just to have something a little bit easier to not have to think about as much while I'm talking. So that is my only knitting project I have going on. But I have really gotten back into my cross stitch and my Alice project. So let me show you the progress I have made on that over the last week, because it's pretty significant, I think. So this is where we are today. I have basically done this entire section here in the last week. I'm a little bit off on my count on this flamingo neck, which I didn't realize until I started kind of trying to fill her in, and I realized I was off. But I'm just going to try to fudge it because really this is just for me, and as long as it comes out like pretty much right, then I'm not going to worry about it. I know that would really annoy some people, but it really doesn't. It would annoy me more to waste floss and to spend time ripping out a bunch of floss. So yeah, so far I think she's turning out really nicely. I'm glad to finally be like working more on the flamingo. I think that'll end up looking really cute. And I put her back in her frame for a while because I just thought it was easier. And I have watched some videos on how to get wrinkles out of finished pieces, so I'm not as worried about it getting like severely wrinkled in this thing anymore, because I think that I can make it work in the end. So hopefully, but yeah, I'm really pleased that this is getting done. And there is something in May called Stitch Mania, Maynia, that I might sort of do, because Stitch Mania is apparently a thing where you like start all the things, start all the cross stitch projects. That is not me. I don't even have that many patterns that I even want to start right now. So I think what I have, like two other ones that I haven't started yet that I might want to start. However, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do about 100 stitches a day on Alice throughout the week. And if I do that and I stick with it, then on Sunday, I will of every week I will get to like start a new project if I so desire. If I don't so desire, then I won't. But I have enough that I think I have enough things that I could start that I think I could get 4 new starts at the end of every week if I wanted to. But we'll see. If I just like really am into this one, then we'll do that. But yeah, that's kind of my goal in May, because I really do need to get her finished. And then the only other progress on anything that I have to show you is my temperature tree. I have started the April branch, and we have had some pretty cold days, and we had some pretty hot days in April. So we have a variety of colors in April so far. So yeah, but I'm really digging this, and this might qualify as something that I let myself do on a Sunday in May, because I really should start on the other side of the branch, or of the tree, because that's a lot of brown stitching that I really don't want to have to do all in one big chunk. So I think I will try to do more of that throughout May as well. Ooh, so yeah, this is probably going to be a long one, friends. I'm sorry. I've been talking now for 45 minutes, it says. So I hope that I will get to condense that a little bit for you. But anyway, I hope you are having a lovely start to your April, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.